For KBRFradio.com News, I'm Derek Sidian, and this is the weekly news recap brought to you by Fergus Falls Monument, online at foreverstonmemorials.com, memorials that matter. 2 Pelican Rapids men have been charged with kidnapping, burglary, and robbery. On Sunday morning, Pelican Rapids police were called to a break-in at an apartment building and found one man assaulted. Investigators learned that the victim's roommate had been kidnapped by a group of men at a house party. Court documents say the photos of both victims had been previously posted by the local liquor store as being involved with a theft, and the suspects were looking to return the stolen item to the store. Police say the suspects, later identified as 28-year-old Alberto Ramirez and 22-year-old Jose Blandon Rivera, used the kidnapped victim's key to enter the apartment and assault the other man. Court documents say the men took the allegedly stolen bottle of liquor, both victims' phones, and $24 and ID out of the kidnapped victim's wallet. Ramirez and Blandon Rivera were identified and arrested for kidnapping to facilitate a felony, first-degree burglary, first-degree aggravated kidnapping, and aiding and abetting to kidnapping, burglary, and robbery. They made their first court appearances Tuesday morning. A Park Rapids man was severely injured last weekend near Parker's Prairie after a demolition derby car fell on his head. The Otter Tail County Sheriff's Office says 25-year-old Elijah Hensel from Park Rapids was working under a demolition derby vehicle in a garage in rural Hewitt at around 1 o'clock Saturday morning when the car fell from off the jack, pinning Hensel's head to the garage floor. Deputies say acquaintances were able to lift the car off Hensel. However, he was found to have suffered what appeared to be a serious head injury. Hensel was flown to a St. Cloud hospital via Lifelink for treatment. A Miltona man was killed in a 3-vehicle crash near Parker's Prairie Sunday morning. State troopers say that 45-year-old David Anderson was riding a motorcycle north on Highway 29 south of Parker's Prairie around 11:10. A minivan, driven by a 90-year-old Parker's Prairie woman, was southbound, pulling into a driveway on the east side of the road when the 2 vehicles collided. Troopers say Anderson's motorcycle then collided with another southbound car, driven by a 51-year-old man from Ivanhoe. Anderson was taken to an Alexandria hospital, but was ultimately pronounced deceased. Troopers say he was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison announced on Wednesday that he reached a settlement with Pelican Rapids-based nonprofit organization Dan Autism Ministries Incorporated after uncovering evidence that the organization engaged in conflicted transactions and self-interested lending. The settlement requires Dan Autism Ministries to repay $238,000 in self-dealing loans and change governance deficiencies that allowed the improper loans to occur. An investigation conducted by the Attorney General's office found that the nonprofit engaged in a number of self-interested loans and other transactions for purposes unrelated to the charity. This includes loans made to charity directors and their family members to purchase vehicles, purchase a boat, fund an MBA, and for a home remodeling project. They contained loan terms that were extremely favorable to the recipients, and the repayment schedules were not followed or enforced by the organization. The conduct was enabled by the fact that the charity did not have a fully functional board of directors for several years. Cool Beans Bagels in downtown Fergus Falls held a ribbon cutting Monday morning celebrating its grand opening. Missy and Mike Butler opened Cool Beans in the old Higher Grounds coffee shop after the previous owner retired in June. The thing that Missy and Mike weren't expecting to catch on was the bagels.
Like once we started selling them, we're like, people say, "Oh, we're so thankful that a bagel shop's in town." And we're like, "Oh yeah, I guess we are a bagel shop."
Missy says she's most proud that Cool Beans has become a place for people to come and hang out.
It has that feel where people they really feel welcome and they really feel comfortable. And somebody had mentioned to me just the other day how they like to make memories here, and I never really thought about it that deep. But then when I sat back and kind of watched the different groups of people having conversations at each table, I guess that kind of hit me.
With the state of the economy in mind, Missy says one of the biggest challenges of starting and running a small business has been keeping food prices down and affordable. The city of Fergus Falls has authorized the purchase of a new $2 million ladder truck for the Fergus Falls Fire Department. At Monday night's City Council meeting, Fire Chief Ryan Muckout presented the proposal to the council. He said the department looks to replace its ladder trucks every 30 years. By the time the new ladder truck finishes being built in 2029, the current one will be about 35 years old. The new ladder truck will be an E1 100-foot aerial truck from Fire Safety USA with a purchase price of $2,033,000. The City Council approved the authorization unanimously, with multiple council members making a point to show their appreciation to Muckow and the rest of the fire department. The Humane Society of Ottertail County is looking for additional funding to finish off their building expansion. Construction on the new building began in May, but the organization is still short of paying about $200,000 for the $2.1 million project. Earlier this month, I went to the organization's temporary site and spoke with the executive director about the challenges the Humane Society is facing. The Humane Society of Ottertail County is filled with cats and dogs all searching for a home. Executive Director Chris Cannon says the improvements being made with the ongoing expansion of the facility focus on getting animals adopted faster.
Our average length of stay is about 41 days, and that's not ideal. Yes, 41 days. And so, if we have a better spot to highlight these animals, hopefully they're going to be getting adopted a lot more, a lot sooner.
Despite massive support from individuals in the county and using $400,000 from its own investment account to jumpstart the project, the Humane Society is still about $200,000 short of the funding it needs to finish construction. Back in May, Chris, along with Christy Lausch of the Humane Society, presented in front of the Fergus Falls City Council, asking for assistance in covering the remaining costs of the expansion project or the temporary location being used during construction. Since then, the City Council has tentatively approved the city budget for 2026 without support of the shelter expansion.
We felt like we presented our case. We feel like we are, very important to the community, and to go and present with very heartfelt, in a very heartfelt way and provide our stats. And, we didn't want to come through with any information that wasn't accurate. We came prepared to answer any questions and didn't get any, and haven't heard anything back since either. So it's a little frustrating.
Chris says over half of the animals in the Humane Society come from a Fergus Falls address, but despite that, the city only funds about 3.2% of the Humane Society's $370,000 annual budget, and the county funds around 24%. Most of the funding comes from individual donors. Chris adds that without those donors, the Humane Society wouldn't be able to operate.
We couldn't do it without the individual donors. That's the reason we are here now operating, is because of everyone in the community. We couldn't do it without them.
Among its other services, the Humane Society uses those funds to help Ottertail County rescue wild animals, as well as pets being abused and neglected, and get them ready for adoption into a safe home.
Even if you're not a dog person, cat person, you live here. So the question I would say is, what would it look like if we weren't here?
If you want to find out more about the Ottertail County Humane Society and ways you can help, go to humanesocietyotc.org. This has been the Weekly News Recap, brought to you by Fergus Falls Monument, online at foreverstonmemorials.com, memorials that matter. For KBRFradio.com News, I'm Derek Sidian. Tune in at 5 o'clock every Friday afternoon on KBRFradio.com or on the Fergus Now app to stay up to date with local news. Find more stories on KBRFradio.com. Sign up for email news sent right to your inbox, delivered by Cooper's Office Supply.